Okay, so here we have the next question on the menu today, and it is asking us what is the square root of negative 25? Okay, so essentially, to put that's in words how it's presented in the question, but here we will do it in math form. Okay, is equal to, well, let's try to figure that out. Now, previously, you may have heard the saying that you cannot take the square root of a negative number because you multiply two negative numbers together, you get a positive number. Multiply two positive numbers together, you get a positive number. There's no way that you can take real numbers and multiply it by itself and square it and get a negative number. It just can't work out. And that is true, but we can kind of get around that by entering the world of complex numbers. Okay, so let me write that out. What we can really do with complex numbers is we are going to allow ourselves to take the square root of negative numbers. Us to square root negatives. Okay, the fundamental relationship that we need to do is, or that we need to keep in mind, is the square root of negative 1 is equal to I. Just the letter I. Like internet or I'm so cool. Just the letter I. This is the fundamental relationship that you need to keep in mind. And another thing, well, if we square both sides of this relationship, we see that I squared is equal to negative 1. Fundamental relationships. If you understand or if you keep these two relationships in mind, you will be very familiar and comfortable with dealing with complex number situations like this. Okay, now I stands for imaginary number. Because it is not a real number, it is imaginary. There's no you can't count to I. Like I can count to most any real numbers. Like I can count to 50. That's a real number. I can count to pi more or less, and that's a real number. But you cannot count to I. It is not. I is just like this relationship right here, and that's the only time it's going to be ever used. Okay, so using this. And using some other things, maybe the first thing that we can do to handle this square root of 25 is let's factor out the negative 1 from the 25 all under the root. Okay, so what I mean by that is to do something like this. So we know that negative 25 is the same as negative 1 times, well, 25, my bad. Which means that we can break this down and we can separate this into two individual roots like this. So underneath is negative 1 and multiply by underneath the root of 25. Okay, now do you see the relationship here? Negative 1 is the square root of negative 1 corresponds to I. Whoops. Okay, so we have I multiplied by, what's the square root of 25? It's I know 5 times 5 is 25, but I also know that negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. There's two possible answers, so we have to keep that in mind for our answer here. So plus minus 5, either positive or minus 5, and yeah, that's the answer, but more formally you would typically write it like this. So plus minus 5i. And honestly, you just treat I as if it's kind of like a you want to treat I like it's a variable, so just like for coefficients, like always keep them attached, and yeah, this would just be the answer. So plus minus 5i. Okay, that would be the answer of square root of negative 25. Okay, so the above solution, negative 5i would also be a possible answer. So answer should be plus minus 5i. Cool.